Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Game night's fun until someone spends 5 minutes lining up one shot. Chalk, breathe, re-chalk, still aiming. While they figure it out, I fire up Chumba Casino. I can spin anywhere, anytime, and there's always a new social casino game every week. Spins happen way faster than that shot. Play now at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
When you manage procurement for multiple facilities, every order matters. But when it's for a hospital system, they matter even more. Grainger gets it and knows there's no time for managing multiple suppliers and no room for shipping delays. That's why Grainger offers millions of products in fast, dependable delivery, so you can keep your facility stocked, safe, and running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
He's an old head.
Youngins are really starting to get on my damn nerves.
He's a purveyor of nonsense. He's a Georgia high school coaching job influencer. His favorite Bible verse is, Jesus wept. He's the man of constant sorrow, Chris Lamb.
Yeah.
Sun Coaches is proud to partner with Titan Sports for the next 4 seasons on Sun Coaches podcast. Titan GPS delivers technological superiority and improved player performance through wearable GPS made for high school football and strength and conditioning. From speed training to athlete recruit to workload enhancement, Titan is the easy-to-use yet comprehensive GPS tool to get it done. There's no minimum to get started, and Titan will walk you through every step to success. Message us on X at Titan Sensor to learn more and get in touch.
Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, and today one of my best friends in the business, one of the best guys to ever do it. He's put his 30 in. Now he's coaching in the private school ranks. He's the defensive coordinator now at Tattnall Square, Coach Ted Bellflower. Coach, thanks for being on with us.
Man, I appreciate it. It's been fun to listen to all these guys come on here and talk. And you know, I told you when you started this, you told me the idea that you had. I told you it was going to be a big hit. I don't think you believe me, but we all love listening to them and looking forward to each week listening to the two. But I appreciate what you're saying that, and appreciate you having me on.
Well, Coach, I know, but I'm gonna let you tell everybody. You grew up in Dodge County, right?
Correct. I grew up in the big booming metropolis of Empire, Georgia. It's right there on the edge of Dodge County. It's in between Cochran and Eastman. I lived closer to Bleckley County High School than I did Dodge County. But back in those days, you had to go to school in the county you lived in. And so I went to my entire career at Dodge and graduated from there.
Who was your high school coach?
I had two. I had Neil Rumble my first 2 years. Neil was one of those hard-nosed, really tough guys that, coached us hard and was great defensive mind. And then I coached in the last 2 years after he left, Buddy Childs came in. I don't know how many people know Buddy, but Buddy was great to play for. He was a great motivator. We really enjoyed playing for him. And he came in there. We had some success with him too. And he put together a great staff there too. So those are two guys I played for. And
you were able to go play college ball after that, right?
Yeah, correct. I went up to Maryville College up in Tennessee, in East Tennessee, right south of Knoxville. And that's one of the best decisions I ever made, go up there and play. And my best friend, who's like a brother, we met up there and played together. And it's just a special place to play. It's got the alumni there are crazy. It's crazy to me for such a small school. We're all a tight knit group, and it doesn't matter what year you graduated from there. We're always real tight knit, and we root for each other and coaching and whatever else they're doing. But I'm actually going to watch them and Barry play on Saturday in the playoffs, in the first round of Division III playoffs. So I was a starting center there for 3 years and graduated there in 1993.
Well, I've had Coach Pavo on here, and you told me that I know he was there for 16 years, and you said he was actually there when you were there.
He was the defensive coordinator and our strength coach. Jim Pavo, man, that's my guy, man. I love him, and I saw him up at one of my son's games up at Reinhardt this year, and he's a great guy and great man, and really good football coach, and he molded me into a good football player, especially through the weight room and what he did with me in the weight room.
Yeah, he came. We worked together when he was at Burke County, and he left Maryville and came to Burke County, and
yeah.
I didn't know he was from Rhode Island. I knew he was from up north somewhere because he didn't talk like we do.
Yeah, no doubt, and all that's university.
Yeah, and then when he said he had coached at Princeton, I was like, "Holy crap!" I was like, how in the world did you end up in Maryville, Tennessee?
Great dude, man.
But you ended up there from Empire, Georgia, so it probably wasn't as big of a culture shock for you to go from.
No, it wasn't as big a culture shock. It was, the dialect was a little bit different when you get up there. You got to learn how to talk. And it was funny. Everybody thinks it's Maryville College because that's how it's spelled. But one of the first things they do for us outsiders, they teach us how to say it, and it's Maryville. It's not Maryville, it's Maryville. So you had to learn how to say it first. That was one of the first things you had to do.
Like Cartersville.
Yeah, Cartersville.
And a Darsville.
I tell everybody up there, I tell people it's funny. You kind of got to talk like you got marbles in your mouth, marble. So
yeah, that's like when growing up in Augusta, we had Louisville, but you talk to people in North Georgia, they go, "Well, isn't Ren's by Louisville?" And you're like,
Louisville.
You talking about Louisville or Hawkinsville? Oh, you live in Hawkinsville.
Hawkinsville, that's right.
So when you came out of Maryville, what was your first coaching job?
Well, I went over to a junior high over in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and Oak Ridge is probably traditionally one of the better high school programs in the state of Tennessee. And our tight ends coach at Maryville for my first 3 years, it was my freshman, sophomore, junior year. He was our tight ends coach. He had gotten a job over there doing that. A guy named Ron Gray, and he got me in over there with him as a parapro, and trying to decide what I wanted to do. I got a degree in sports medicine, and the very end, last semester in college, I was like, man, I really don't want to do this. I want to coach. So I worked with him, and he got me a job for 2 years over there. And you talking about learning a lot, man. You coach that level. It was a true junior high. It was 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. And you learn a lot about yourself, learn about a coach when you coach that grade level, man. But it was a great experience, and he gave me my first job.
So where did you end up going after that?
Well, Jeff Lee was my high school offensive line coach at Dodge my last 2 years, and he took the job at Twiggs County High School in 1995, and they were starting football back. They had been working for 4 or 5 years to get football started, and the superintendent told them, "Y'all raise the money, and we'll get it started." And it took them, I don't know, I think it was well over 5 years that it took them to get the money raised. And they hired Jeff as the first football coach there, and he called me, wanted me to come down and work with him and be the offensive line coach. Start that program. And I tell you, starting a program like that is just, it was special. The football that those guys knew was what we taught them. And it was a great experience. Those kids are still some of my favorite. I actually talked to one of them today on Facebook. He was messaging me and asking me how I was doing. So, it was a special time. And I spent 5 years there. And, we, second year varsity program. First year was JV, and then we went to varsity. The second year varsity program, the second year of varsity, we made the playoffs, and that was a great experience for those kids to be able to make the playoffs. And our reward, and you'll probably remember this one, we got to go down to Miller County and play Charles Grant now. So
congratulations!
Congratulations! Thank you very much for being here. And one of the great stories, man, we're on the sideline, and our defensive coordinator's like, they got the ball first, and it was like, bam, they ran ISO first play. We knocked them down for a yard loss. I'm like, look here, yeah. Young coach, I ain't got no clue. I'm like, yeah. Second play, they run ISO again. Bam, we knock them down for another yard loss. I'm over there, grab the defense coordinator. Yeah, they ain't got nothing on us. And all of a sudden, they turn around and toss that thing to Charles Graham, and it's all sweet, and ding, 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 ding. Boom! There goes the cannon, touchdown. So I thought they were going to run out of ammo that night, but we had a great time. So we had a great time, Blair. Man, those kids, man, special place to me. I mean, I know people think I'm crazy when I say that, but that was a special place. Really was.
Yeah, I was at Aquinas in the late '90s, and I remember going to Twiggs when they built the new school. And
yep, I was there.
Yeah, and you'd have the guy on the intercom. Who you with, TC? Who you with? Rattle them jugs, right. And they'd shake the jugs. It sounded like a snake.
Yeah, it did. And then you can welcome to the Cobra Pit, baby. They ready to strike now. So that's what I used to tell people coming in there too. So
yeah, that was great.
It was a fun place. It really was.
And Jeff Lee's back. He's back in Georgia.
Yeah, I talked to him a couple of weeks ago. He's up at Riverside Military Academy. He retired and went down to Florida for several years, and just told me him and his wife want to get back up around some family, and so they
can't get enough of it, Coach. He can't get enough of it.
He's one of those guys. He talked to Coach Fligg the other day. I was listening to that. And Jeff's one of those guys who take a place like Riverside or Twiggs or GM. He was at GMC for a while, places like that, and he'll work with them, and they'll eventually be good. I mean, he's sound in what he does, and works him in the weight room, and just does a great job.
Yeah, I need to get him on too. So,
he'd be a good one.
You're at Twiggs. Y'all build it from scratch, and you parlay that into.
I leave in 2000. I left. I was there through the '99 season, and a good friend of mine, Tony Byram, got the job over at Macon County. He was coming from Hurd. He'd been at Crawford and went to Hurd for a year. Got the head coaching job at Macon County and called me and wanted me to come work with him. And I'd known Tony my entire life. We both grew up in the big city of Empire. And I'd known Tony forever. And he called me and asked me to come with him. I jumped on it as fast as I could, because just working for a guy like that, and the experience he had, and the knowledge he's got, and the way he treats people, man, I jumped on it and went over there and stayed at Macon County for 6 years. And that's another place that I'm telling you, man, as far as coaching, that was a special place too, man. And kids would do anything in the world for you. If they felt like you loved them and cared about them, they would run through a brick wall for you. And I loved it over there. I worked for him for 3 years, and he decided to go back to Crawford. And then Bobby Hughes came in, and I spent 3 years with him, and that was special. I mean, those two guys are still, two of my best friends, and they're more like brothers to me than they are friends. They're family to me, and if I need something, I can pick up that phone and call either one of them. They're going to do whatever they need to for me. And I really enjoyed, working for them two guys. They're special people.
Y'all had a lot of success there, and I know Coach Hughes, and you introduced me to him when we were up at the clinic, and he's up at Cass now.
Yep. He's up at Cass. Of course, Coach Byram's retired now, fully retired. Bobby's getting ready to retire too. He's trying to decide if he's going, try to get a 49% gig or go do something else or whatever. But he's retiring this year too. But man, them guys were. That was a great time. We were very successful. They won one region championship, and played a lot of games and coached a lot of games with those guys. Man, it was a great place, man. Everybody thinks I'm crazy, like I said about Twiggs and Macon County. As far as those kids, man, those are some great places too.
Y'all had a cannon in Macon County too.
We didn't have, they brought that back a little bit later on after I was gone.
Oh, okay.
They didn't use it while we were there. No, we didn't have it when we were there. So they brought that back a little bit later on.
They'd have had it when y'all were there. Y'all would have run out of ammo because y'all were good.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. I was the offensive coordinator for Bobby, and our defense was so good. And I knew, I said, man, every game going into, I said, if I can score 2 touchdowns, we're going to win. Because people weren't going to score on those. And that was what was so special about those defensive guys. And, they took pride in that, and those defensive coaches took pride in it. So we ran that ball down people's throat and scored some points. And I knew we were in good shape at that time. So our defense was special over there. There's no doubt about that.
So where did you end up after Macon County?
while I was one of the reasons I left Macon County, and if I lived about 20 miles, 30 miles closer, I was living in Cochran at the time of commute. If I lived 20, 30 miles closer, I don't know if I'd ever left. But I left because we were living in Cochran, and I actually had a chance to go work at Blakely County High School with Sam Bars, and another one that was.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. The rush of racing? Nothing beats it. But Chumba Casino comes close. Chumba's got fast spins, fun games, daily bonuses, and all the action you can handle. Now that's a ride. Ready to hit the throttle? Get in the driver's seat and head to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Very special to me, a very special guy. He, a legend in this. You use that word too.
Absolutely,
he's a legend in my mind in this state, and what he did with the GACA and what he did with GHSA and what he did on the field and on the grass. It was special to work for him. It was, he took really good care of me during that time. Had a young family, and he would take care of different things for us, and just special man. Really enjoy his friendship still. He's still one of the guys when I've got questions about something career wise or whatever else, I'm going to give a call to and ask him, what he thinks or, all this kind of stuff. And Sam was real good to us and as my family. And, I was there with him for 6 years, and then when he retired, I stayed there one more year and decided to leave after that. But it was a really great place too. Those kids were special to me too. And the community was just that first year we were there. We went to the quarterfinals, and Blakely had never been to the quarterfinals. And man, I'm telling you, you talk about excitement. We went down to Fitzgerald and beat Fitzgerald in the first round. They were number 4 team in state. We were 4th in our region. They were 1, and we upset them. And I thought we'd just won the Super Bowl. Man, they were, we were all over Fitzgerald that night. They were, and the fans just went nuts. It was awesome.
And who came in after Coach Bars at Blakely?
Tracy White. And Tracy was a friend of mine. He had worked there 1 year at Blakely with us and went back to Dublin. And then he got the job at Blakely. And I spent 1 more year there, but it just felt like, there's times, and this in this business, there's just times it's time to move on. You've done what you can there. And, I had the opportunity after that to, anytime I moved jobs, especially that time, especially now, I always, put it in God's hands. And it was funny. I was down at a basketball game at Dodge County one night and standing talking to Rex Hodges, and I said, Coach, if you have anything, I'd be interested in talking to you, about a job. And 2 weeks later, I get an email from him, called me. So I called him, and he had a job, and I left Blakely and I went down to Dodge, and I was offensive coordinator still at Blakely, and so I went down there and actually went to the defensive side that year and became the defensive coordinator at Dodge. But really enjoyed that, working for Rex and getting a chance to go back home. That was special. And we had a really, really good run there. Eventually, I ended up moving on back over to the offensive side. And the last 3 years there, I was the offensive coordinator. And we had the best 4-year run in school history. We won 37 games in 4 years. And we won a couple of region championships and that kind of stuff. And they've never done that down there. It was a special time for us too. I mean, we enjoyed that success, and really enjoyed coaching some of those kids down there. And, some families, it was odd at Blakely and at Dodge. I coached kids that I went to school with. Some of them that I'd played ball with, and that was really special to be there to be able to coach some of those kids that I've known their parents my entire life, or had played football with them or whatever else. And I did that at Blakely, and I did it at Dodge. So that was, as you said today on one of your podcasts, they full circle. It came full circle for me.
Is that when you got really involved with Coach John Marshall Peacock's family? And
yes, I mean, I had known Coach Peacock. Coach Peacock, I interviewed with him for a job when I was at Twigs one time, and he already had somebody else ready to hire, but the guy was kind of wavering. So he called me and said, "Hey, Ted," he's like, "Look, he's like, this guy's, if he takes the job, it's his." He said, "I just need a backup plan. Will you come and interview?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And I went down there. And that's when I first met Coach Peacock. And then, but when I got down there, I got real close with the family and with him. And, he really, my son considers him like a grandfather to him. And that's how he was to RJ when we were down there. And, but Coach Peacock was a huge mentor to me. And, when Coach Peacock passed away, I was one of the 11 that was considered an active pallbearer. That really was very special to me, and that family is still very special to me. Miss Sue, his wife, is one of the sweetest human beings you'll ever know, and they were good to me. And his daughters I call them my sisters. That's the two sisters I never had. So, but I really enjoyed getting to know him. And actually, I'm sitting in my quote unquote office here at my house right now, and I'm looking at a picture of him on the wall that I have of me and him. So,
and they've got they have a big golf tournament every year. Man,
yeah, and that thing's awesome. It's taken off. They use it to raise money for. They give scholarships to people at Dodge, some kids at Dodge, and some other schools at Montgomery County where he coached at too. And they also use it for pancreatic cancer research. They donate some of it to that. It's really good causes, and I know how you guys out there love to play golf, but I'll start sharing that when Miss Sue sends it to me, and they'll be starting to get that thing set up in January, February. Date will come out, but that thing's really awesome. There's great prizes. Coach Tony Anderson helps run that thing with them too, and TA does a great job helping them out with that, and they just do a great job with it, raising that money. He goes to some great causes, and honors a great man.
Yeah, let's get involved in that if we can, guys. Make sure we support that. Those of you that chased a little white ball around, and those of you that didn't know Coach Peacock, I knew him as a young coach, and you talk about a legend, man, please. Middle Georgia Mafia, he was the head, he was the Don.
that is very true.
He was the godfather.
No doubt.
So you're at Dodge for years.
6 years.
6 years, and then me and you hooked up in Hawkinsville.
Correct. Coach Hodges retired, and I told you earlier, I always put I put it in God's hands of what's going to happen in our lives, and I knew when that job came open and Coach Hodges retired, I knew that there was going to be. I knew the political aspect of Dodge County, and it's one of the most political places on the face of the earth. And there were certain people I knew I was, to get the job, I was going to have to do certain things. And there were some things I was willing to do and some things I wasn't willing to do. And as far as getting people to vouch for me or whatever, throw my name out there. And, but I told my wife when it came open, I said, look, these are the certain things that they're going to expect. I said, I'm willing to do some of them. I said, some of them I'm not. And I said, I'm not going to do that. And so but I sleep good at night, knowing that if I had gotten that job, it'd have been God's plan for me. And it would have been, on the merit of the job that I had done there. And I did as good a job as I could done there, Chris. And we won. Like I said, we were very successful. And, but things happen for a reason, and I truly believe that. I truly believe there was a reason that I didn't get the job. I think God was protecting me from a lot of things, that could have been bad. And so, it was late when all that went down. It was April or May, or it was late April when all that went down that I didn't get the job. And the first thing that the new head coach does is he come in and fires me. And I've been working for 26 years. The old saying, though, that saying that, there's two type of coaches, those that have been fired and those that have not been fired yet. And
yeah.
So I finally fell in that category, then got fired by the new guy. RJ's coming into the 9th grade and I want to coach him, and I'm like, well, I got to find a place. They called me over from Hawkinsville and wanted me to come over, and so I went and interviewed and decided to take that job. I had a couple other people call me and wanted me to come, I just felt like for my family that was close, and it was close to my parents still, and everything. So I said, we'll just go there, and maybe this will be a good deal. And Hawkinsville had been up and down, but had some great years at times and some bad years at times. So I decided to go over there, and and I felt like God was leading us there too. So was only there that year. Me and you were there that year together, and you'd been there the year before. And at the end of that football, I knew that year. I knew mid-season that I was going to get released again. I knew from the way some things went in some meetings, and you know what I'm talking about. And when you go around the room and vote for what offense you want to run, if you want to stick with mine or go something different, everybody votes my way. I knew things weren't going to be good. I was texting my wife that night. I was like, "Hey, don't unpack any more boxes." So, we hadn't been there long, but I'm telling her not to unpack any more boxes because we weren't going to be there much longer. So, but that was all for a reason too.
But you and I had fun.
Oh yeah, man, we had a blast, man.
And I told RJ, I said, I'm going to figure, what does RJ stand for? And he goes, well, I'm going to let you guess. And RJ's a freshman, y'all. And I said, okay. And me being autistic as I am, I spend every morning from RJ's, because there's more to this story, because we're going to keep following each other. So for the next 3 years, for the next 3 years, every day that I see RJ, I say, good morning, Robert James. That's not it, Coach.
That's not it, Coach.
Good morning, Ricardo Juan. That's not it. I pick every RJ name, including Orange, spelled RNGE, Jello, which I think was his favorite.
No, that was.
And Ted's dying laughing, and and RJ's just shaking his head like, this man is crazy. And every day
he still talks about that, man. He still talks about it
every day. Ronaldo Geraldo.
Geraldo, that was a good one too. Yeah.
And so then me and Ted, I was going to introduce him this way because this commercial came out. And for some reason, I guess because we have the same kind of warped sense of humor, it just tickled us. And it was, I was going to introduce him as, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so glad to have Dr. Phil Saleri with us today. Phil, good to see you.
Phil's dead.
Fell off a boat.
Fell off a boat.
So every time when we call each other, he'll say, Dr. Saleri. And I'll say, Phil's dead.
Phil's dead. Fell off a boat.
Fell off a boat.
RJ still talks about that, man. I'll never forget. I mean, we'd pull up there in my little black truck. And for some reason, me and you got there at the same time every morning, it seemed like. We're getting out of the truck at the same time. And I'll never forget RJ we pull up in that drive, and RJ go, Dad, what's it going to be this morning? And I'm like, RJ, there ain't no telling. He said, it's going to be something, ain't it? I said, it's going to be something.
So you leave first. You get the job first from Hawkinsville to Northside Warner Robins.
Correct.
And then the superintendent gets me, COVID year.
Yep.
Going in a different direction with baseball. You went to Elite Eight last year, your first year, but we're going to go in a different direction. And you're going to teach middle school, special ed, and you're not going to coach anything. I literally laughed at him and was like, okay, I can go to Houston County and their local supplements more than I was getting paid here to coach 2 sports. And
go back to being released from football. Me and you have been released on the same day if I had been at school.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You remember that? Because I was like, you text me, said, hey, he got me today. And I said, well, he's meeting with me in the morning, so I guess it's me tomorrow. So, and that whole conversation lasted about 45. I got up at 8. I know I left my house at 7:50 to be at an 8 o'clock meeting at the field house. I walked back in the house at 8:10.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, I walked in with my notebook. I was fired up. I was ready to talk about what we're going to do in the off season. And as soon as my butt hit the chair, he goes, Coach, I'm going to go in a different direction with what we're doing in football. And I just rose up. I said, all right, man, I appreciate it.
I started to get up and walk out. And he was like, Coach, don't you want to talk about this? I said, what's there to talk about? Not really. And then he started going, well, if you need a reference, I said, I don't think I need a reference.
Hey, it's Cole Swindell, and when I spend 200 days a year rolling down the highway, the bus can start to feel smaller than a guitar case. Everyone wonders how I stay chill while the hours crawl by. Truth is, one good luck spin on Chumba, and suddenly the trip feels a whole lot shorter. Finding your space, even when there isn't much to spare. Need some chill? Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus TNC Supply. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
From the coach just fired me.
Yeah. No, I'm good.
I'm good. Walked on out. So
he's like, you still got baseball. Yeah, you're right.
I didn't have anything
for a month and a half. I had baseball.
Yeah, that's right.
So anyway, we end up. Ted goes to Northside, and he's telling me how great it is, and he's already working over there. And then I end up going over there, and I wasn't going to coach. I was just going to teach special ed and hang out. And
Coach Alligood found out.
Yeah, Coach Alligood's like, hey, man, we need a 9th grade O-line coach. Let's get Lamb to do that. So me being a special ed coach, and Ted was coaching biology, so we're in the building, so I get to go hang out with Ted during the day and go visit him and see him. And man,
and then people down that hallway absolutely loved you, man. You know, the folks that you worked with, they were like,
well, you too. You were the only.
Yeah, they did. And they're still good friends. I got them in a group text message. We talk all the time. But it's
and Northside's a good place. I mean, it's a great place to work, and the kids, they're some of them are a little rough around the edges, but they're good kids.
No, that's so far out. You know, everybody talks about it and reputation and whatever else. That place, that first year especially, even though it was the COVID year, it was phenomenal, man. I have never seen a place that top to bottom when we got there, the top to bottom academically to athletically was it was the best place I'd ever been.
Well, and to see a big time program run with 20, it was a number of coaches. When we went to the playoffs that first year, I took a picture, and it took 6 buses for us to go somewhere.
And the thing about it too with that one, one of the things that came to mind was the next year when we finally got to have pep rallies. We were having a pep rally, and RJ comes to me and he's like, "Dad," I've never seen anything like this. I said, "RJ, this is almost year 30 for me." I was like, I ain't never seen anything like it. And I was like, it's 1,800 kids in the gym and nobody's sitting down.
And Northside Warner Robins Week is a thing.
Oh man, homecoming doesn't mean anything there. The week they play Northside Warner Robins game is just unbelievable. Spirit Week, it was unbelievable. And we never really got to experience it like it used to be. But my last year there, it was as close as it's been.
Well, and you can vouch for me on this. I've told people this. I'm like, you weren't allowed to wear red. You weren't allowed to have a red vehicle. You
not just Spirit Week. That's all the time. I wore Maryville College where I played at is garnet, orange and garnet. And the main color is garnet, that dark maroon type color. I wore one of my sweatshirts of that to school like in January. And I got, just regular teachers that didn't know me. What are you doing wearing that color? It's got Maryville College written on it. And I'm like, well, it's not this, you don't wear that color here. I was like, well, okay, I won't wear this again. And so all the Maryville stuff was put on, for a while. So.
And I tell people in the weight room, we'd have the jump boxes, and each, they were vinyl on the outside, and every side had a color, and the red side went against the wall.
Had to be turned down. Had to be against the wall or turned down to the bottom. Correct.
Absolutely.
That is correct. No doubt.
And I'm sure they're the same way with blue at the other school. Mm-hmm. And
there's no doubt about that.
Pep rallies every day, and the band going down the hallway. People are like, "You're kidding." Oh no.
Mm-hmm. No.
No.
You might as well not. School didn't happen that week.
And when Mr. Dyson would come over there and get on the intercom, and you'd hear him just whispering, and he'd come on the intercom.
He'd start playing "I Feel," in the air tonight. Starts playing,
and he's talking. Chills, we're gonna get a demon. We're gonna get a demon this week.
That gives me chills sitting here talking about it.
Man, it just. Especially us being outsiders, not being in the not being Warner Robins. It was just surreal because we'd always heard about it,
Right.
But to be a part of it and then try to explain it to other people is the closest thing I can think of to what it must be for like Alabama, Auburn.
Right.
Because you're either one or the other. There ain't no sitting on the fence that week.
Yeah, God taking care of you and stuff. All the stuff that went happened at Dodge and happened at Hawkinsville to me. We get there, and I sit back and I look at it sometimes, and me and several of the coaches talked about it several times. My son would not have experienced what he did if we'd have been at Dodge County. Yeah, there's some rivalries. They played Blakely, they played Dublin, and those kind of things. But he got to play at Valdosta. He got to play Valdosta his junior year and beat Valdosta. I mean, there's not a lot of people in the state can say, hey, man, I beat Valdosta. Even Valdosta's bad years or whatever. So, you got to play schools like that. We got to play, the Lee counties of the world. And, it all worked out for the good. And like I said, God knew what he was doing better than Ted knew.
And you got to coach RJ.
I got to coach RJ up there, and watch him in his element. Watch him be, first team all region 1-6A. I mean, how many, as an offensive lineman, that, it's amazing. And then, so it was special. It really was. And, like I said, God knew what he was doing better than Ted knew what he was doing. So for sure.
Yeah, Richard Jeremiah had a pretty good career.
Ronaldo Jimenez, that was another good one. Ronaldo Jimenez. So, yeah.
And I actually had him in a math class. And by that point, he was so used to it. And the other kids are like, why does he call you a different name every day?
Every day.
And he's like, just ignore him.
I'll just go with it. So, and y'all in there driving the teacher crazy, trying to figure out how to throw a curveball, teach Mac how to throw a curveball right, and all that stuff.
RJ's my guy, though. That was my dude, man. We got through tough days together. we pulled each other through.
Me too. Me and him too. Sometimes they're that in Hawkinsville and up here at times we had some of those too. But special kid, man.
So once he graduated and you were free to explore other avenues, and Coach Alligood had moved on and administration changed and it was woefully awful.
Yeah.
I'll say that. I don't usually like to say bad things, but it was terrible. It was not good.
New head, again, another changeover, new head coach. I wasn't part of his plans really from the beginning. He needed my teaching spot. So had kind of demoted me and then finally told me he didn't want me to be part of the program. So I started looking around, and one of the hard things to leave Houston County is just the money-wise aspect of it. They pay so well. I him all around and had some offers from some people, but finally it was all the way down to June before I found a job. And Coach Roger Holmes down at Dublin offered me a job, and he had offered me a job several years before that, and I had turned that one down. But he offered me a job again, and got to go down there and coach the running backs. And I'll be forever indebted to Coach Holmes for giving me that year down there with them, Joel Ingram and Ronald Bonner and those guys and Joe Stubbs, those guys that I got to coach with that year, along with Coach Holmes and Keaton Wilson. I mean, there's just some great guys on that staff, and they welcomed me in like I'd been there for 20 years, and just had a great time with those guys. I mean, you talk about a room full of knowledge, and you put all those guys in there together, and I'm sitting around going, man, I'm not worthy to be in the room with all these jokers, man. So I mean, they've all won a bunch of football games, and but they've all become really good friends of mine. And I was planning on being at Dublin for 2 years. That was my plan, because I knew thought I had 2 years left to retire. And another good friend of mine, Mark Estes, that I worked with at Northside, kept pushing me. He said, Ted, you need to find out how many, sick days you got. You may have a year. And I didn't think I had it. And so I sent off all the paperwork. When you work coaches and teach at many places I have, you got to send a bunch of paperwork off to get how many days you got banked in their stuff. And finally, middle of August, I get that back from everybody. I start adding up the numbers, and I'm like, holy crap. And I had one more to go, and it was Blakely where I'd been the longest. I start looking, and I already had 147 days. You need 170 for a year. I was like, man, called my wife. I said, this is going to be close. So Blakely comes in with enough days to put me at like 184, something like that. So I'm like, holy crap. So I'm texting my wife when I got all in. I'm like, look, I'm done. And she's like, she thought something bad had happened. She's like, what's wrong? I said, no, baby, look, this, so I got my days in to be able to get another year's service. I can retire. And that wasn't counting the 12 days I got from teaching at Dublin. So I was like, whoo-wee. So I'm like, then we started thinking about it. I told her, I said, I just want to, have the greatest football season as we can. And we'll make a decision after that, a final decision. But, I kind of knew going through that year that it was probably going to be my last in public school. And I didn't really know what I was going to do. But decided to retire after that year, and decided over Christmas finally what I was going to do, and turned my paperwork in January. And then I started looking, man, what am I going to do now? I still got to work. I got one in college. And, the retirement check is good, but it ain't that good, to be able to just sit at the house. And I started looking at a lot of different things, Chris, and started talking to some, sporting goods salesman people, and just really, talked to several guys, got in depth conversation with one of them, and really thought it might be what I wanted to do. It was going to be selling shoulder pads and reconditioning and stuff like that. And it's like, man, this is right up my alley. He was going to give me Middle Georgia. I was going to be right here, be home every night. And just, it was all total straight commission. And I'm just like, us teachers, we're all so used to that paycheck at the end of the month being the same throughout the whole year and throughout that contract. And he's talking, start talking to people. And I'm like, well, if I don't sell anything, I might not be having a paycheck that month, So I was like, I don't know if I can do this. So I kind of just let that go. And I was sitting at my desk at Dublin one day, and I said, well, I'm see where God is, pray about this thing. And so I sent my resume to a bunch of private schools in Macon and the surrounding areas, about 5 or 6 schools. And about an hour and a half later, I get an email back from Coach Abernathy at Tattnall Square, and he says, hey, man, I'd love to talk to you. So we talked on the phone that afternoon, and I went to the school 2 days later and talked to him, and about 3 weeks later, I had a job. And so I knew God was in there. Every door opened, And I said, well, I'm just going to stick right in, and I'm going to go to this private school route. And they're entrusting me at Tattnall Square to teach Bible class. And I've always questioned that with them. That's a joke, but I was always questioning that with them. I'm teaching 11th and 12th grade Bible class. Just, something totally different. And when I interviewed with Coach Abernathy, he was like, well, if I get a science job, would you want that? I said, nope. I said, I did that for 14 years. I said, I want to do something different, I'll do something a little bit different. So I'm teaching the Bible class, and I'm enjoying it. I'm probably learning a lot more than them kids are, as far as when I have to research stuff and look stuff up to be able to teach them. So they could probably teach it to me a lot better than I can teach it to them. So, and took the defensive coordinator job. They went back over to the dark side and been enjoying that too. Because I told somebody one day, I said, I could have went in there and put my offense in with my eyes closed. But this one, being the defense coordinator, I had to study a little bit, and it kind of rejuvenated me as far as learning some more football, talking to people about, I lean on Rod Harris a lot. I probably drive Rod crazy, but I lean on Rod a lot about coverage because I'm coaching the secondary. So, and it's been a while, so I'm trying to figure that out too and running the defense. But it's been a good change. It really has. And I tell everybody, I'm working hard. Everybody tells me, hey, how's retirement? And I'm like, well, I may be working as hard or harder than I have in the last several years. I said, but it's nice at the end of the month when them 2 paychecks come in. So that makes it okay.
And y'all had a good year this year.
We had a great year. Our kids bought into everything that we were trying to do. I was a different breed to them a little bit. I think I was, I was very intense about what I wanted and how I wanted it done. And coached it like I've always coached it, and had some stuff at the beginning that people didn't want to buy into doing what we were doing. But then when they start working, we played really good defense at times. We got put in some bad situations at times, just like all defenses do, and we responded and thought our kids.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Another checkered flag for the books. Time to celebrate with Chumba. Jump in at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
He really responded to what we do, and I had a great text message from one of our defensive ends after the last game. He thanked me for coming there and making his senior year special, and that he really enjoyed. He really loved playing for me, and that text really solidified what I had done this year. You question yourself after you get beat in the playoffs, but he really solidified what I had done when he said that to me, and that meant a lot.
Well, providing good experiences for the kids. I mean, that's and I know you have, and we always talk about, especially us older guys, is it ain't about us. It's about the kids. And take care of the kids.
Take care of the kids, and that's one of the things that's special. And like I said, those kids, they welcome me in too, and that's what it takes a lot of times to be successful. Is those kids have got to welcome you in and believe in what you're doing too, and they really did. By game 1 or 2, we took Pacelli and shut Pacelli out with the wing tee, and I was scared to death before that game started. But we had put in a couple of special things to try to shut down the wing tee, and we did. I mean, they moved the ball some on us, but they just didn't score. And it was just, I was like, man. And after that, I think that's really when the kids started realizing that, hey, this old guy might know what he's talking about sometimes. But it was a special time with those kids, and seeing them be successful was really good. And we went 7-3, but we were in every ball game, and lost all of them. All that we lost for 7 or less points. So, but and one of them's playing. One of them that we lost to's playing for the state championship this weekend. So, they're the defending state champions anyway. And the one that we lost to the beginning of the year was the defending runner-ups from last year. So our schedule was tough, and I like tough schedules. I like challenges. But like I said, it was a good year for me, and good adjustment.
Well, that's awesome. I'm going to hit you with the same question I hit all the other old heads with. And over the years, you've been doing it a long time. What are some things about the game these days that's changed that you've noticed, good, bad, or otherwise, that you've just seen from when we got started in the 90s to what it's turned into now?
Well, let's talk. I'll talk good first. I think that, technology has done a lot of good. Y'all were talking about Huddle the other day, and the coach talking about he couldn't run that or whatever else. And, I think Huddle has changed the game for us in a good way. And as much as I love going and driving over to Louisville and meeting, Coach Lackey from Laney and sitting there and talking to him for a while, it gives you more time with your family. You don't have to go and make that trip, every 3 weekends or whatever is yours. And, those were the ways that we did connect. And I talked about that the other day, which was special, but it also took a whole morning and part of the afternoon from your family. And I think that's been a good change for us. End zone cameras and drones flying at practice. And it took me forever at Northside to get used to that drone flying over my head. And that was the first place we had it. And I kept hearing that buzzing sound. I was like, what in the world? It kind of scared you at first a little bit, because we just wasn't used to it. But that kind of stuff has made the game, better for us, I think. And technology and equipment and those types of things have done good. And I hadn't had to worry about the turf tank thing y'all were talking about today. I listened to today, but because I was, Dublin, we had one at Dublin that painted the practice field. So I ain't pulled that string in a while, brother. So since Hawkinsville, I guess, and I didn't do a lot there. But
telling you, that turf tank ain't no joke.
No joke. Well, that thing's awesome. But at Tattnall Square, we got a guy that does Coach Brooks does all of our facilities, and they do a phenomenal job. When I first got there, I was watching film, and I was like, man, they must have one of them robots that paint this thing. That line is awesome. When I got there, I asked him, I said, y'all have one of them tank, one of them robots? He was like, no, we got JB. Coach Brooks is one that does that. And I was like, man, that line was a straight. I was like, man, ain't no way a person painted that. I said, could be, and then, like it looked like the town drunk painted that thing. I said, that joker does a great job. So, but that's some good stuff, I think, that's changed. Bad, I just think that kids are so worried now about getting an offer, get an offer from here, and enjoy playing high school football. Enjoy those times with the guys that you grew up with, that even the guys at Tattnall Square, some of them have come in and out of there. But the group that we had this year, the majority of them, 90% of them, have played there together since they were in like second, third grade. So, enjoy those times for those guys. The offers will come if they're going to come. Go do the camps, do all that kind of stuff, do the recruiting, but don't worry about it. Have fun playing ball. That's part of the bad. And just, man, officiating has got so bad. That's a whole podcast within itself. People just don't know the game, and they're out there calling the game. They just don't know rules, and they don't know how to interpret stuff. And that's some stuff that's bad to me. And I want to go back and say too that one of the things I want to say at the beginning that I forgot. That one of the things I love what you're using this for. My hope is that there's a bunch of young guys that listen to all these, and you say it all the time to them. This game ain't worth all the time that some of these guys put in, and miss the time with their family. I was guilty of that. I chose this job over my family at one point, and I'll never do that again. And that's not something I'm proud of. I try to tell these young guys that have young families, to go home, spend time with that, with your wife and your young kids, because you're not going to get that time back. There's times that I can't get back from my kids were little that I missed, and I chose to miss. It wasn't like I was forced to miss. It's what I chose to do. And I think this could be a heck of a ministry for you for those young guys. And you got to put your time in, you got to work, and you got to do. But don't overdo it. Spend time with that family. Those are some of the things that are bad to me now. I mean, I'm glad with some of the stuff with recruiting and the NIL stuff and all that, and I'm glad I'm winding down at the very end of this thing, because it's not going to do anything to get worse.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be different, and my son's going into history education, and he wants to be a coach and a teacher, and people, I probably said it to you, several months ago or a year ago, Chris. You probably asked me, and I told you you're like everybody else with the same reaction. Man, you didn't try to talk them out of that thing, right? That's twofold. One, I think we need to push good people back into this business. Agree.
We need to try to get some of the good kids that played for you, or that are playing college ball, or doing this or doing that, to go into this business, because there's so many bad in this business now compared to when me and you started, and that aren't in it for the right reasons. They're not in it for, teaching kids how to be a man, or, being that father figure for them, or whatever else. They're in it for just winning games and trying to win championships. And yeah, that's all important. And we got to do that to keep our job, but it's not the most important thing. And we need good people going into the business. We really do, because, 5, 10 years, people keep getting out of it, not going into it. What's it going to look like?
Yeah, that's one. When you said what you said, I pick at youngins all the time, young coaches all the time, and it's not, I do it out of love, because we were taught by the Mount Rushmore guys, the legends of the game in Georgia high school, and we learned from them, and it's our job to pass it on to the next group. And I want them to listen and realize that now with technology, and now with the way the game's changed, and now with the different things that you have access to, you can still be hard and you can still get after it, but you don't have to make the same mistakes we made. Don't make the same mistakes we made, just like we do with kids we coach.
And that's the thing too. One of the other things that's bad to me is how, everybody wants to come out being a coordinator or a head coach or doing this or doing that, have this title or whatnot. And, I started out at a ninth grade program, and very proud of that. I feel like I've worked my way through and earned everything that I've gotten. And that's that's what's special to me is the way I did it. The only goal that I'm not going to meet that I had is being a head coach, and I always wanted to be a head football coach. But God had other plans for me with that, and I'm okay with it. I really am, and I'm just proud of what I've done as an assistant. I feel like one of the things that I've always done, I've always been loyal to people that I work for, and sometimes maybe too loyal. But I don't think there's anything such thing as too loyal. And that loyalty with a lot of them now are gone. And I was told, you probably told the same thing when you came into business, Chris. Is if you don't like the way things are being done here, go somewhere else. You ain't got to stay here, but you're not going to ruin what we have here, or stab me in the back and that kind of stuff to try to get my job. Go somewhere else. I've been told that a couple of times, so especially when you're younger, but guys got to learn to work their way up. Like you said, that we need some more string pulling out there. We need to have to go pull a string and do the little things that it takes to be a coach, wash the laundry. We've all done all of that.
Yeah. Coordinate the locker room.
Yeah. Coordinate the locker room. You can be the coordinator of the sanitation committee, or whatever. So, but nobody wants to do those things. And is it fun? No, it's not fun. But as Coach McDavis at Northside used to say, there's more to coaching than a coaching shirt.
That's right.
There's so much that this job entails. I saw one on Twitter the other day that had all the jobs, all the things that you are if you're a football coach. It was like, psychiatrist, psychologist, motivational speaker, laundry guy, grass cutter, all this stuff that comes along with it that people don't realize that we have to do. And, with technology, can we make some of that a little bit better with the turf tank? Yeah, but somebody's still got to be out there with that thing for 3 hours.
Yeah, not everybody's got one.
Not everybody's got one. And so, not everybody's got a turf field, and that kind of stuff. But it's, I still think we need to really push young guys, good young guys, to go in this business.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, I tell you what, I appreciate you coming on and the job you've done over the years and the example you've set for everybody. And I love you and cherish our friendship and our weekly feels dead because he fell off a boat conversations.
No doubt, man. Chris, you've done a great job with this thing, man. And what you do for high school coaches is, and administrators and everybody else that blows your phone up at this time of year is tremendous. And I appreciate the friendship too. That I always look back at good things that came out of places that I was at. Our friendship coming out of Hawkinsville, we probably wouldn't even, if we hadn't worked there together, we wouldn't be as close as we are. That was a really good thing that came out of Hawkinsville for us. And I tell RJ's girlfriend too that she was the other good thing that came out of Hawkinsville.
That's right.
For him especially, but she's been good to him, so that's good for us. So it's good. There's good in everything that you do, but and I appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk with you tonight. It's been a lot of fun, man, and I look forward to listening to these things, man. I'm pumped up about the Jim Pavo one now. That's gonna be fun for me. He's probably gonna tell some stuff on. He might tell some stuff on me that he didn't get my name, but from Maryville College days. But
well, actually, you're coming out after him, so I'm not going to play spoiler. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you what he said.
Okay, I'm looking forward to listening to it though, because he's a phenomenal guy, and all these guys. It's been so much fun to listen to. Some of these guys that I've known and didn't know. I have sat in the car. It was great last year. I came home from Dublin. I'd be listening to them coming crying because I'm laughing so hard. So, but it's great though, man. Appreciate what you do for high school football in the state of Georgia. It's just really phenomenal, man, that you're doing this.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Another checkered flag for the books. Time to celebrate with Chumba. Jump in at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21+. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.